Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair on Rash Pixel FM. I am Michelle Chalfant, and today's show is going to be an interesting one, as they all are. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things to say, and that is, it's all about me. And that does not mean selfish. So we're going to talk more about that in 1 minute. But first, you can find out more about the show on theadultchair.com. You can subscribe for free by signing up for a mailing list and find us anywhere the finest podcasts are served with a quick search for The Adult Chair. You can join our conversation on Facebook or Instagram, and make sure to request to join my Adult Chair private group on Facebook. We have tons of conversation in there and comments and questions, and it's a fabulous, fabulous group. If you'd like to learn more about the Adult Chair, and you know what? A lot of people just go in there and they talk about their own journey, and they help and they comment on other people's journeys, and lots of good Adult Chair lingo and language in there. So come join us. And let's see, the last bit of information is April 28th and 29th. In Nashville, Tennessee, we have an Adult Chair Level 1 intensive. That is Saturday and Sunday at the Scarrett Bennett Center in Nashville. You guys asked for it, so I've put it on the calendar, and it is a beautiful weekend and helps to take all this adult chair language and really integrate it, and it becomes a lot more, I guess we do a lot of hands-on adult chair kind of things. So come join us. We'd love to have you. We still have room. So, all right, let's get right to it. One of my most favorite things to say to my clients is that this mantra, I say, this is your new mantra. It's all about me. And I'll ask my client, go ahead and say that out loud. It's all about me. And then they say, well, that's kind of selfish, isn't it? And I say, no, it's not selfish. If you're not connected to you, then how are you going to know how you feel, what your emotions are? Do you need to set a boundary? You have to stay connected to you. So we have to keep the focus on ourselves, and that's not being selfish. Selfish is if I'm at a party and there are only 3 brownies left and I go up and I grab those 3 brownies. That's not what I'm talking about here. This is about staying connected. It really is all about us. I've got to stay connected into my body, into my thoughts, into my emotions. I've got to stay connected to myself first. Then I can take care of other people. Then I can check in with other people. And it's like that old saying goes, if the plane's going down, I've got to take the oxygen first, and then I can give it to everyone else. But I got to make sure that I'm good, that I'm connected to myself. I just need to know this, because who else is going to tell me if I'm off, if I need to check in with my emotions? I do that. That's my responsibility. And so often we make other people responsible for ourselves, for our emotional state, for when we're feeling bad. We want other people sometimes to help us feel better, or we use substances or wine or food. No. Today in the show, we're going to be talking about how we can cultivate this sense of self and staying connected to ourselves, and the importance of doing that and how we do that. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So many things have come up in the closed group, actually, about the last episode that we did on love avoidance and love addictions. Many people have written in and commented and had lots of questions, and they're worried because now they feel like they're love avoidant or love addicted, or they're realizing that they're codependent, or many people have written in that they're in a bad relationship, and what do they do? And there's a lot of questions that come up in that group, like, oh my gosh, I'm realizing, fill in the blank. What am I supposed to do now? What I want to share with everybody is, again, if you remember this statement, it's all about me. Instead of asking other people, and I'm not saying to stop commenting into the group, that's not what I'm saying at all. But first, I would say tune into yourself. Tune inward. We really, truly have the answers within us, but we're not taught to do that. When we're growing up, we're not taught that, unless our parents sit us down and say, okay, okay, Johnny, you go deeper within yourself, and you can get the answers from within. If we're taught that growing up, it's much easier now as adults, but most of us weren't taught that. So we got to learn how to do, how do we do that now? So what that looks like is, if you're faced with something like, oh my God, I'm in a bad relationship, or oh my gosh, I think I'm a love addict, or I'm codependent, or whatever it is, slow down, stop what you're doing, and step inside yourself. Tune inward. You may not have the answer or the end of the road in mind. You may not get like this spontaneous answer of this is what it's going to look like. This is what the whole path is going to unfold, etc. No, I'm just saying, tune inward to get the next step. That's it. So get curious. From our adult, we're curious. From our adult, we slow down. We're able to stop and go, okay, I feel like I'm codependent. What do I do now? Let me just sit with myself. So I go inside myself, and I might just feel the answer of, I'm going to go to a CODA meeting, or I think I want to start exercising, or maybe I'm going to set a boundary with so-and-so, or maybe I'm going to start using the word no more in my life. So it's one step into your healing path, or onto your healing path. And then you'll have the next step, and then the next one. But the first step is to stop what you're doing, slow down, and tune inward. Tuning inward is the first step. We have to go inside of ourselves and get really curious about what our internal guidance system is telling us. And that internal guidance system, call it the soul, call it God, call it your light, call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, is always willing and able to talk to us, to give us hints, to give us emotions, but we don't know to go inside of ourselves. We go outside of ourselves. We say, what do you think I should do? Let me call my friends. Let me call my family. Let me call so-and-so. I have people all the time that will say to me when they come in for sessions, they'll say to me, okay, this was a great session. When should I come back? I don't like to take people's power. I don't do that. So I turned it back to them, and I'll typically say, when would you like to come back? And they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, well, why don't you go inside of yourself and get the answer? Sit for a moment, find your truth. So it's just a new way to kind of set up the brain into going inside of ourselves instead of looking outside of ourselves for the answers. Okay. So tuning inward, really, really important. A lot of people have come in and asked me too, like when they have issues in their relationships, do you think I should get a divorce? Do you think I should break up with so-and-so? Do you think? I'm like, I don't know. How do you feel? You guys have heard me say this. My language is much more about, hey, how does this feel versus what do you think? So I always put it back on my clients. Why don't you feel your truth on that one? And you do that by tuning inward. And I always say, you will feel moved to do the next step on your path, whether it's get a divorce or break up or get back together or physically move states or towns or whatever. You will feel moved. But again, we will know this by tuning inside of ourselves. The next thing we want to think about is trusting ourselves. When we go outside of ourselves, we are not trusting ourselves. I'm not saying you can't go and get feedback after you have found out what your truth is, but learn to start going within yourself first. Again, we just want the very next step, just the very next step. Go with it. How does it make you feel? Your body will open when it's a yes, and it will close or contract when it's a no. In fact, in one of my classes, I talk about muscle testing, which is a way to really get inside of your body and your subconscious mind to help you to decide what to do next. But your intuition and your subconscious, and again, that internal guidance system, which I would call the soul, is guiding us. But we got to get in touch with it. So one thing that I teach people is called the sway. It's a way to test yourself. You can do that right now if you want. You can stand up and just put your feet like a few inches apart. And stand there comfortably and close your eyes, and you just ask the question, or you just state yes, 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 and then allow your body to move forward, backward, side to side. Let your body move. And that means your body is saying that the answer to your question is a yes, so it will sway in one direction. And then you ask no, 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 and then your body will sway in that It might, again, if it sways forward on a yes, it might go backwards on a no, or it might go to the side. At any rate, your body can tell you. This is about trusting ourselves. So try that right now. It's actually very fun. It's kind of crazy that your body will actually sway in one direction. So it will sway on a yes and sway on a no. And then you can ask, my name is Michelle, let's say. So I'd say, my name is Michelle. And if that's true, then it will my body will sway in the yes. If it's a no, if I say my name is Johnny, it'll go in the no direction. So, and then you can ask questions. But every time that you do that sway test, you're going to want to definitely ask in the beginning, yes, 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 no, 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 because every time you do it, your body might be swinging in a new direction or swaying in a new direction. So I hope that makes sense. That's really fun. So anyone that does this, please comment in the closed group because I want to hear more about it. The last thing is drop into the body. So our body is filled with these emotions. Sometimes we'll get a contraction, we'll get tightness in our throat, we'll get tightness in our heart, we'll get tightness somewhere in the body, we'll get flutters when we're nervous, our tension in our back. The body does speak to us if we listen. And if I'm not connected to myself and making it all about me and dropping into myself, then I don't know. So use your body for direction. This just happened to me, in fact, over the weekend. I was collaborating with a woman back in the fall, and I was extremely busy and kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Like we were going back and forth, and then I got really busy and I just honestly had forgotten to call her back. So then I started thinking about her a few weeks ago, and I said, oh my gosh, I have to reach out to her. We got to get back together. We were collaborating on this project. And so I'd called her last week, left her a voicemail, and normally she would have called me back like that night. I didn't hear from her. So 4 days went by. And then on Saturday, I called her again, and it went right into her voicemail. And I left her a long voicemail. I hung up, and I felt this sweeping emotion come down over the front of me. I said, whoa, what just happened? And I had that thought, and then I stood up and I said, oh, I'm going to go make myself a coffee. Oh, I'm going to go check my email. Oh, I need to go let my dogs out. And I found myself doing activities, even though I had this horrendous feeling on the front of me. But of course, when I'm doing all these activities, I'm not paying attention to what's on the front of me. So I finally said, I jumped back into my adult. I slid actually very slowly. I said, okay, you know what? I realized I had this giant awareness. I became conscious of what I was doing. I said, I'm distracting myself. I need to stop. I really need to stop. I want to get curious. I don't know what this feeling is that's down the front of me, but I really feel like I need to sit with it. So I did. So I tuned into my body. Okay. I tuned into my body. I slowed down, closed my eyes, and I just said, what is going on with this feeling on the front of me right now? I want everybody to know, not everybody's going to get visuals. Sometimes you'll hear something. Sometimes it's just a knowing. Sometimes you'll sense it. Sometimes you'll smell something. It's like all these different senses that we have. Your body will use a particular sense just for you. So it may not be like me. It may not be like another person. You may have a few things happen. For me, I get a lot of visuals. I'll get a sensation and a knowing. So I just sat there with it and I said, what is going on? And it just felt like my whole front of my body was contracting. And what I discovered was when that woman didn't answer the phone, I fell into shame. It was really big shame. So I just sat with it. I said, oh my gosh, it's shame. And I said, okay, it's shame. And I just sat there and I didn't do anything with it. I just sat with shame and sat and sat. And the shame got more intense. And then as I sat there, I said, that's so interesting. Again, from my adult, I was like, wow, it's really interesting that I'm sitting in this. I wonder what happened. But I wasn't like investigating to go get what happened. I just was curious. I thought, So then the shame, just by sitting and observing it, started to, or this feeling on my body, I should say, started to move a little bit. And then I said to myself, what's this all about? And then I heard the words, I'm really bad. And I said, okay, so tell me more. I was just getting curious. So tell me more, well, this woman, she doesn't like you, obviously, or she would have called you back and your relationship's over and you're not going to be able to collaborate with her. You're so bad. I don't know why you didn't talk to her before. My adolescent was having a field day with the automatic thoughts, just rifling in and coming at me so fast. And I just was listening. I said, okay, all right. And I let the adolescent just go. It was on and on and on and on and on. And then I said, okay, I wonder when this all started. And I was just honestly just curious. I wasn't following anything. I was just like, I wonder when all this began. And I immediately knew I was, again, 3 years old. It just like flew into my head. I was like, oh, I'm 3. Okay. And I was bad. I wasn't validated as a little girl. And I was seeing myself as this little 3-year-old. And I said, wow. So then I saw this 3-year-old standing in front of me that was myself. And I thought, how could it possibly be that a 3-year-old is bad at her core? Remember the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something bad, and shame is I am bad. I didn't do anything bad. I'm just bad right down to my core. And I sat there and I was like, wow, how can a 3-year-old or really any age be bad? It was just an interesting dialogue I was having with myself. And I worked my way out of it just by being curious. It was just an interesting example of just sitting with curiosity. And the more curious I was, I thought, wow, that's so interesting. I'm not sure that I don't agree that a 3-year-old can be bad, but okay, if you want to believe that, eventually just being in it and sitting with it, I felt the shame. It just sort of slid off of the front of me and poof, it was gone. It was just gone. And I didn't have to do much. But then when that contraction on the front of my body was gone, I did sit and ask myself, I said, is it true that a 3-year-old, or again, any year-old, I don't care if I'm 50 or 3 or 20 or 10, can be bad at the core? I can do bad things. And I decided, again, myself, my truth is, I just don't believe that. Now, can a really beautiful person on the inside do bad things? Yeah. And then I said, okay, so is what I did by not calling this person back in the fall bad? Is it actually a bad thing? I got no. My truth was like, no, it actually isn't a bad thing. I decided to let it go. But nobody outside of me, what I realized was I could have asked 10 people, do you think I'm bad? They would have said, of course not, Michelle. You're not bad. You're not bad. You're not bad. But I still would have felt bad. You guys know what I'm talking about. But when we come up with our own truth about ourselves, that's when we have a big internal shift. So because I found my truth about this whole experience, I didn't need validation from anybody. I gave it to myself. So that's what I mean by connecting to yourself, realizing it is all about me. I've got to come up with my truth. I've got to figure out how can I stay best connected to myself. When we realize underneath all this negative programming, all the childhood wounding, all this crap that we inherited and picked up along our life journey, underneath it all, I believe, is this beautiful, precious beam of light called the soul. We're all born with one of those. How can they be bad? We just got covered up. It's just covered up with crap. And when we start connecting back to that part of us and staying connected to, again, that child part that has all the emotions and needs, and then connecting even into our thoughts and what our ego is saying and what that adolescent part of us is saying, staying connected to that means I'm in my adult. When I'm choosing to connect, I'm in my adult, which means I'm also knowing I've got my higher self, I'm grounded, I'm right there. So when I connect all those parts, my life begins to change. But how can I be bad? How can we be that broken? Maybe we're not. In fact, maybe we're not broken at all, and it's just a stupid belief that we picked up along the way. I had that belief, I'm damaged goods, for many, many years. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I had that belief about myself. It's so interesting. But it was all from projections from people that were around me. Grandmother, uncles, aunts and parents and all these people around me. They mirror back to us who we are, and we start to believe all of their unhealed wounds that they're projecting on us. If we have parents that are not healthy or caregivers around us, I had more than parents, I had a lot of people around me, but if they're unhealthy and we're these little kids, these little sponges from 0 to 6, we sponge and absorb all that stuff that's around us. When we've got that going on, we do pick up all of these beliefs and programming. But what we can do now when we stay connected to ourselves, and remember, it is all about me, we can start to change that, and we become clearer and clearer about who we really are, which is this at our core, the most precious. I mean, think about us as babies. The most precious, innocent little creatures are born. How can we be bad? We're not. It's absolutely impossible. One more time. Stay connected to yourself. Tune inward. Trust yourself. Drop into your body. And remember, you are a precious, precious soul on the inside. This is all about spirituality, you guys. It's really about learning to go deep within. This is about raising your self-awareness. Remember, you're a spiritual being crunched into this little teeny tiny human body. But when you leave this body, you're a gigantic spiritual being. And lastly, I just want to share one more thing about these labels that we all use. You know, I have a lot of people on the show, and I'm going to have a lot more interviews because I think that knowledge is power. And one of the ways that we remember who we are is to remember and learn what we are not. And even clients have come in and said, oh my God, I'm codependent. What do I do? Or I'm a love addict, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, or I'm married to a narcissist. Now what? I'm screwed. I'm stuck. I'm in this awful marriage or relationship. These labels, I believe, keep us stuck. So I don't like labels, but I do like information because information is power. So if you feel that you are, let's say, codependent or anything you want to label yourself with, that's fine. Grab the information from that label and then drop the label, and then you learn what you need to do in order to heal. But don't walk around with that label as an identifier of who you are. I remember having a client that came in and he was beating himself up every session about his brother, and he was trying everything to get his brother to love him and what was he doing wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And I finally said, tell me more about your brother. I want to hear all about your brother. And he, I tried to do this and my brother rejected me and did it. Anyway, long story short, what I realized was his brother was a borderline. He had borderline personality disorder. And I said, your brother can't give you what you're looking for. And he says, I've never heard of that term. I said, go home and Google it. And again, I didn't say that to him to judge his brother, blame his brother, or even label his brother. But again, I wanted to give him knowledge so he could see that it wasn't his fault. So my client came back the next week and he said, oh my God, you're so right. That totally changed me. I've been trying my whole life to please my brother and build a relationship with him, and he's not capable. I said, he's just not. It has nothing to do with you. So that really transformed him. And I have a lot of people that have come in and said that when they gain knowledge about what's going on. So if you had a narcissistic parent and you learn that, great, learn it, drop the label, let it go, and then learn what you need to do to heal. This is all about your own spirituality, staying connected to you. Remember, it's always all about you. It's got to start with you, your truth, okay? Trusting yourself. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible. And you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/theadultchair. And I want to talk to you guys about a book that I'm recommending. And every week, as you know, I'm recommending a book based on the show. And I really spend time looking for a very appropriate book for the show or for the topic that we are talking about. And this week, this one really resonated with me. The book that I'm going to recommend is called Edgar Cayce on Mastering Your Spiritual Growth. Edgar Cayce was an amazing teacher many years ago. He's now passed on. But this book is by Kevin J. Todeschi, 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 maybe? Edgar Cayce on Mastering Your Spiritual Growth by Kevin J. Todeschi. An amazing book. So try this Audible download. They are sponsoring our podcast and you get it for free. So why not try it out? It's again, audibletrial.com/theadultchair, and you get this book for free. Lastly, before we end, I want to share with you guys, if you all remember Pete Wright, who was the producer of this show and was on almost all of the first 100 shows with me, he has a new podcast. Actually, he has a few podcasts, but this is a brand new one. And I wanted to give you a little trailer because it's really, really awesome. It's called What's That Smell? But it's actually on anxiety. So have a listen to this show and give his show a try. It's also available on iTunes and everywhere where podcasts are served. Here you go, and enjoy the trailer. And I will catch you all next week. in the adult chair.
You already know what it is.
Even before we bring it up, it's there.
Because it's always there.
Always there in the back of your mind.
It's that one thing.
That one thing you always think about.
That thing you can't stop thinking about, even if you want to.
And you're thinking about it, and it makes you ask.
It makes you ask the same question.
And that question is?
What's that smell?
Welcome to What's That Smell, a sometimes funny podcast about humans and their anxieties.
And no, What's That Smell won't always be about smells and the questions they bring up.
Thank God for that. Instead, each week we will be discussing the issues that question revolves around, those small anxieties we each have in our everyday lives.
They're worth talking about because what might seem trivial but distressing to each of us individually might actually be shared by a lot of us together.
Preach!
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III.
While we've been close friends since college in Boulder, Colorado.
Go Buffs.
We are two very different people. For instance, I live in Portland with my wife and 2 kids. They are the loves of my life and teach me new things every day.
And I live in Los Angeles with my rescue dog, Foster. He tripped over a shoe this morning.
Through all of our differences, we've realized that we both share something.
That we each have little anxieties in our lives. Ones we keep secret and think only apply to us and us only.
And that's where these little anxieties take root and thrive in the darkness, like crafty raccoons, or as I call them, rackraftoons.
Ooh, I hate those sneaky rackraftoons. Sneakcraftoons!
But now it's time to change all that. Every week, Tommy and I will each share one of our deepest, darkest anxieties with each other. We'll drag them out into the light, and doing so, we'll share them, learn about them,
and hopefully laugh about them with all of you.
Because learning and laughing about anxiety is like a silver bullet cross made of kryptonite.
It's nonsensical, but it might help solve the problem at hand.
Each week, you'll be hearing things like...
You know, as I've been an adult for a zillion years now, the rational part of me knows that that's not possible because of physics and aerodynamic lift. It's just not possible. And then I did a little bit of research.
Oh, dear.
It is absolutely possible. It is 100% possible.
And what is the first thing you think about when you're 12 and somebody says particles of stuff are going in your nose?
Not flowers.
No, it's poop. It's always poop. I can't believe I had to actually tell you.
No, I just didn't want to say the word. As a mitigating factor, everyone knows your mother is a liar.
The package of cookies was open, and I reached in and I brought...
Already?
Yes, they were already open, and I put them... I grabbed 2 cookies, and I came into my office, and I put them down on my desk to come in and record with you. And then I picked up 1 cookie, and I put it in my mouth, and I ate it. And then a few minutes go by, and I reached down, and I picked up the other cookie. And what's on the other cookie, Tom? Ants, Tom.
Oh!
Yeah.
No! No. We're done. No more. We can't talk about ants.
You know, I'm trying to tell you that I put ants in my mouth, right?
Don't. So come join us on this experiment into the unknown nonsense we call our brains.
Some of our anxieties will be stupid. Some will be more real.
But all of them will be worth talking, learning, and laughing about. And we will most definitely want to hear from you.
You might be surprised that some of our little anxieties are some of your little anxieties.
It'll be like listening to a mirror.
And that makes no sense at all. Our first episode will be ready to go on March 12th. Until then, you can find the show at rashpixel.fm. And please go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever fine podcasts are served. Then you'll be ready to go on day 1 when we try to find the answer to...
What's that smell?